Okay, let's continue right where we left off. Warnings and all. We do need to set up our, or actually we need to create our methods that will make the character run through their textures. So let's just come down right over here. We'll do this above the update method, and I'm going to put in here methods to run SKActions. How about that? All right, well, the first one is going to be run, and I'll start all of these with the word run. Resting textures, and the first thing we're going to do is say if repeat rest equals nil. All right, so that's our action, and if it equals nil, that means that it hasn't been set up yet. It doesn't equal anything. Okay. In which case, we'll just call self set up rest, and hopefully, after the first time this, or after this is initially set up, we'll never run through that again. Hopefully, the repeat rest SKAction won't get garbage collected or anything like that, released from memory. But if it does, we're at least prepared for that. We can just run through it again. And then I'm going to say if character.hasActions equals yes, then I want to remove any existing actions that are running on it. And just do that by calling remove all actions. And let's take a look at that in the documentation. Ends and removes all actions from the node. When an action is removed from the node, any remaining animation the action would perform is skipped. However, previous changes are not reverted. Okay, so basically stop doing what he's wherever he's at, and we will of course now come down here and finally write if character run action, and then here's where we put in here repeat rest. And if you, as you can imagine, the rest of these are going to just follow suit. All right, so for our run walk, we've got walk front action equals nil. Set up the walk front and remove the actions, and finally come down to run walk action. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy in the same thing for our run walk side and run walk back textures. Unfortunately, it's not as easy for, actually no, it is easy. It's not a simple cut and paste for our attack actions. Because, well, they're just a little bit different. But there we go. We should now be able to test out the character going through all these actions if we actually call these within our move left, move right, move down, move up. So let's tackle that now. So we've got if use side view frames equals yes, and then before I put anything in there, let me just go ahead and write this too. Else if use front view frames. All right, now why would we do that? Else, and that final else statement is going to use what we had before. Okay. All right, here are the conditions. First off, if we're using our side view frames, then we're going to primarily do what is inside of here. Okay, that won't get run, and whatever's in here won't get run. But if that's not the case, then we have the option of being lazy and just using our front view frames for our moving left or right. Okay, or moving left just in this case. We'll have this alternative for all the options. Okay, and this is a perfectly acceptable way of doing things. It still looks pretty good, and that's what was being run when I initially showed you guys way back when, the blob character running around, because it doesn't have side view frames, but it does have front view frames, and it doesn't look as great as if you switch to side view frames, and it does look a little bit weird if you mix together a character that does and doesn't, but you know, that's your problem really. So anyway, that's why we're including that in here, and so we just need to satisfy both conditions now, and this is pretty simple. We're going to write character dot, in this case the zRotation is now going to go back to being degrees to radians 0, because if you look at our artwork for side walking, where is that? Side walking, it's over here. We've already drawn this to the side, right? So unrotated, this looks good. Now when it's going the other way, or I should say, yeah, actually when it's going left, we're going to need to flip that. So that's going to be the first, we're going to do that right now. And that occurs right down here. We still want the degrees to radians to be 0, but we want character dot xScale to equal -1, and that's going to flip it around. So I'll say flip 100% on the x-axis, so just horizontally. All right. And now every one of our other conditions is going to have to also account for that x scale possibly having been flipped, which is okay. We'll just set them all back to an x scale of 1. All right, now we are going to write in here, and you know what? We could even do that. No, that's right. All right, character. I was going to say we could do that up at the top too, just as kind of just to be sure. All right, character dot zRotation. In this case, if we're just using the front view frames, we are going to go and put this at -90, just like we did for the else condition right here. And you might be thinking, can we combine the two of these? I don't think that's a good idea. No, actually we can't. We still have to run our actual textures, which I happen to forget out of this one. Let's say self run walk side textures. That would have been a terrible test if I had left that out. All right, and then down here, let me give us a little bit of breathing room. This one is obviously going to be run walk front textures. All right, and then we do no texture change for that last option right there. And while we're inside of here, let's do one other thing. Let's write up here self.zPosition, and that's going to be your visual depth. We're going to make that equal to 100 minus the place. All right. And since we brought in our place as an NS number, we do need to actually change this to being an integer value. So we just write place and then integer value, and that'll convert it. Let's say converts NS number to int. All right. And has anybody figured out why we're doing that? Well, the closer you are to 0 for your place value, like our leader is at 0, that's going to be at a higher depth. All right. So in this case, if that equaled 0, there's really no change to the z position. You're at 100, and anybody that comes in after this is going to be subtracted by 1, 2, whatever. So the next character would be at 99, the next one at 98, and this is going to be what we use for left, right, and down, but then we're going to reverse this when you go up, because when you're going up, our leader is usually going to be in the lead position, so we're going to actually make him look lower visually. Okay, so now let's move on down to move right, and I think we can get away with doing a bit of copy paste action here. So we just want to make sure that we keep that at right, and if yep, that's going to stay the same. So if we're using the side view frames, that's still true. Now we want to peel out this line, and let's go ahead and put this right up here at the top. So that's removed from any if statement. So just in all cases where we're moving right, the x scale is going to be back at 1 again, and then so the degrees, the rotation here is going to stay the same exactly as it was before, 0. Run the walk side textures, and for this one we're going to be at 90. That stays the same, and there we go. All right. I think we could give this a test right now. Okay, so and you can see I put the characters back in at some better initial positions, other than all starting at 0, 0. And sure enough, here's our little lead man walking around. Let's have him go tap in another character, and there they go. Okay, off to a good start. Let's go ahead and stop that and keep doing these. Okay, next up, once again, we're going to take, if you're moving down, these same two lines. And then we're going to put in here, I'll just copy this in. If use front view frames equals yes, they're going to run our walk front textures. And in both of these cases, the zRotation can be at 0. All right, and yeah, I guess in theory we could put that out, take that out of the else statement. Let's do it. So no matter what, we're going back to the that same rotation setting, and there we go. That one's completed. And finally, we've got move up with place. This is the only one where we're going to take this zPosition and do anything different with it. Kind of in the back of my mind right now, I'm thinking that it might make more sense in the long run to take this zPositioning out and put and make the level manage it, because it could go through and look at every character and just see which one is higher up visually, because that would always be the one that's going to be behind. So that's something to think about. But anyway, for right now, we'll just leave it this. And again, so this is the one that gets reversed. So we're just going to put plus there. X scale is going to be at 1. And then, like all of our other situations, we're going to have an if statement here. So that'll be use back view frames equals yes. Run the walk back textures. The rotation is going to go 0 because obviously our back texture artwork is already back facing, right? That's what it looks like. And then otherwise, use front view frames equals yes. Rotation is going to be 180 in this case. Then just run the walk textures, and we should be done with that one. Let's go ahead and give this a test. Yoink. All right. And I guess they're far enough apart where you can't really tell there that this guy is visually in front of the other one. Let's go get this other dude. And let's see. There we go. You can kind of see it there. They're cruising around. Now let's go back to our property list and bring in, or change the characters a little bit. Let me stop this, and for item 2, let's use our blob, and then resting frames is going to be no. Walk front frames will be yes, but side view frames is going to be no. And then we're just going to put, for the atlas file and all these, is going to be blob. And you know what, I'll just, even though we're not using these, I'll just put blob in there as well. And we do have blob attack frames, but otherwise it's just this little blob walking over 13 frames here. Okay, so let's give this a shot and see what happens. There's the blob. Let's go over here and get him. Ooh, and how come we're not seeing his walk frames? We know he's rotating though. Look at that. Yeah, I know exactly why that is. I forgot to actually establish what I got to put in here blob 1, blob 2. So there you go. Not hard to figure that problem out, because these were all still set to walk front. So we just need to put in here blob 1, and actually let's just put in blob for right now, and I'll delete out all these other ones. And I've got 13 of those frames, right, starting at 1. So right now I have 12 items. I do want one more, and then I can just come down here, 2, 3, 4. What's nice though is it doesn't crash when you doesn't usually crash when you've left out an image. It just gives you that nice red X mark. And now let's see what happens. And by the way, you do have to save your property list if you make a change. At least that I've noticed. So if I forgot to save it just now, well, I'll still see it. Nice big fat red X. And here we go. Sure enough, trailing behind, and we're using just the front view frames for all 4 directions here, but it doesn't look that bad, right? Kind of looks like he's got a little Slimer dude back there. So there we go. And you know what's interesting is watch the, oh, you can't see this, can you? Let's make the scale lower. Check out the node count right now. It's only 4. So that would be, let's see. Okay, you know what the 4 nodes are? This green one gets counted in. So the boundary, the background, the night, and the blob. So there's just 4 nodes right here. Our 5th one, our character isn't actually getting counted, okay, until he's in view. And there he is, right? So you could have all sorts of stuff inside of this level, but as far as your draw count goes, your nodes, they're just completely ignored. Pretty sweet, huh? Okay, that'll do it for setting up the textures. We'll come back in a video just dedicated to attacking, and we'll do that next.